Hi there. I want to say a little bit today about sex abuse and manipulation. And this is number 14 in the sex and abuse series. And I wanted to speak about manipulation in particular because it's quite an important part of the whole abusive situation, dynamic that's set up. And primarily the dynamic is set up based on manipulation because generally abusers like control and dominance, and in order to do that they need to be able to manipulate another person. So I wanted to focus on the manipulation side today, because if an abuser is conscious of what they're doing, a lot of the time they do, it's very consciously done, then they know that they need to have control of that person. And in order to be able to control the person, because that's part of their need, is to be able to control because of their own issues. And often they become addicted to that control. So under the Safe Relationship Training umbrella today, where we're building our Safe Relationship Toolbox, I wanted to help us to be less available for manipulation and to become more consciously aware of the dynamics involved and to become aware when we are being manipulated. So one of the reasons why we need to be manipulated in a dysfunctional situation, which is abusive, is so that one person has control over the other person. And initially, the manipulation may show up as a very seductive process in the beginning in order to draw us in. So that's one element of manipulation that's used, is during the seduction, when we're bombarded with all sorts of compliments and things, and we're told how wonderful we are and how compatible we are with the abuser, and we're drawn in with the fake facade, we're drawn in by the mask through this manipulative process where the mask is set up, put into place, so that we're unable to see who the person truly is until the mask falls, which is generally after a commitment has been made. So the first time that the manipulation may show up is in the seduction phase, as I call it, where we're being drawn in, we're being hooked in, and that change will not occur generally. We won't see it anyway until the commitment is made. We are hooked. So that means that the abuser becomes more secure. They feel more confident that you're not going anywhere anytime soon, and they can up the ante, they can increase the abuse as and when they want to. And so we have the completely false persona which shown. It's shown right from the moment you meet, as I say, up until the time that the abuser feels confident, and then we see a switch potentially, and that switch is only generally seen in private, not in company. It may flash forth in company over a long period of time, but initially it's kept very much on the down low. So the manipulation is also kept on the down low, and that's done so subtly, if it is done in public, that only the victim knows what's being said. So the power imbalance is created through this system that's set up through abuse. So abuse is about creating inequality to where one person is the victim, the other person is the superior one, and the one in control and dominance of the victim. And that's set up over a long period of time. And through manipulation, the abuse is escalated. And it's a very subtle way of gauging whether or not the other person is ready to take the next level of abuse. So through manipulation, the victim is very gradually manipulated into the position of victim so that the abuse can continue and increase. And so along the way, of course, we've got the self-esteem, the confidence of the victim being eroded over time, and gradually then through manipulation, sexual abuse can be brought in because the victim is becoming destabilized and weakened. The sexual abuse can be brought in, and through manipulation during that sex act, through a very seductive and a false loving attitude, it can be used to groom the victim to engage in various sexual activities that they're not really comfortable with, or it can groom the victim also to accept violent sexual behaviour so that it becomes the norm for them, and it becomes the norm for them to keep quiet, to not stand up for themselves, and to subject themselves to this abuse sexually, so that they're groomed to gradually over time accept more and more of the abuser's agenda sexually through manipulation. Gaslighting, of course, is used to build that perception up as well of the victim, being the lower one, being the more subordinate one. So that sexual abuse and other areas of abuse which would have built up over time, such as emotional abuse and psychological abuse, has already laid the groundwork right from the beginning, because that initial seduction phase is often the part the victim memorises first, because it was so great, and they want to get that back. And so they compromise themselves and hand over parts of themselves in order for that to happen. So, important to remember that love isn't abusive. Once we get a handle on that, once we realise that even though the abuser is saying, I love you, you know how much I love you, you're so sexy, babe, you know how I love you. Once we realise that the behaviour isn't backing up those words, then we can get a handle on what exactly is happening in the abusive dynamic, rather than trying to get that initial golden phase, honeymoon phase back. We focus on what's really happening, and we actually start to do something about changing the situation or leaving. So as always, stay safe and very happy. Bye-bye.